Hey everybody, welcome to our first supplemental episode of Rumor Flies. I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Greg.
And today's going to be a little bit different. This is kind of our little mid-season break, and we want to keep everybody a little bit, entertained, updated, informed while we're, waiting for the second season to come out.
Mid-season break?
Between season break, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably a better way of putting it. Yeah, we're not The Walking Dead. We don't have mid-season finales.
We're being a little bit casual. We're drinking a little bit for this one.
Are you implying we don't drink a little bit for every episode?
Shut up, Josh!
They know.
Damn it. Anyway, so this episode is going to be a mix of two things. First off, it's going to be a recap with us. This is pretty much, it sounds a little bit different as you can tell. We're just sitting outside, relaxing, just want to get out of the studio environment so we could kind of just make this a little bit more of a casual chat between us. And also, after this is going to be the funny part where we will be putting in all of our, recaps, warm-ups, outtakes.
Yeah, just us sounding like a bunch of idiots before we start the podcast.
It's going to be 25 to 30 minutes of you seeing us differently forever, and maybe not listening ever again, but and this might be a completely this is going to be an uncensored episode. I don't feel like censoring this one.
Well, the thing is what we do is before we start the actual podcast, we just try to get comfortable talking into the microphone, which I think was a good decision on our part as the season went along, and it just made us more comfortable, and we just talk about either us being idiots or other stuff that you will find out that may or may not scar you.
Spoiler alert, there's a lot of poop stories.
Lots of poop stories.
Everyone gets one every 10 years.
There's other things, yeah, that's an occurring thing. We didn't even have that one in there. But I guess before we jump into anything, we're going to go ahead and do our plug, because we actually are kind of excited about this one. One of our buddies, Blurry Photos, decided to join Dark Myths, and now we get to plug them on Dark Myths. If you haven't heard us talking about them, Blurry Photos, they explore the unexplained and explain
the unexplored. Yep.
We may have said that backwards, but you get the point.
I don't think it matters.
And it actually is a little bit relevant to the outtakes that you're going to hear, because there's a little story involving them involved. And so that's Blurry Photos. Check them out. They are personally my favorite podcast. I know Josh and Greg like them as well.
They're in my top 5. They're definitely up there. They're two really cool dudes, and as you might have remembered from previously, Ryan and I went to their live show in Chicago. So, yeah, if you remember us talking about that, these are the same guys.
And they know how to be funny, and they know how to be educational too.
So I was going to say they're real strength, because there's a lot of podcasts now. It's really a growing scene, but I think their greatest strength by far is their dynamic. If you're really into good host dynamics and
their
really
chemistry is
into,
amazing.
Yeah, if you're just really into how people interact, and when you really just get that authentic vibe of two friends hanging out, they do that very well. And who knows, maybe they hate each other, but they make it look like they like each other.
They did it pretty well when we just met them,
Well, and they also cover a lot of things that we don't, in the sense that we stick to more education and fact. And they kind of toe the line a little bit.
If you want more loosey-goosey, open-ended discussion about, honestly, some cooler stuff, less mundane, I guess?
Yeah. Not as death involved.
Yeah.
Debatably.
Well, sometimes.
Debatably.
Sometimes.
They literally just did a thing on, the anti-Bible. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Codex Geass, they get into some weird stuff.
Or if you want to hear them do their own Richard Dreyfuss impersonation.
Yeah, that's true. They have their impersonations on point.
Yeah.
You'll get to hear ours later in this episode, but
Oh, Jesus.
yeah, I don't think Greg remembers that, but you'll get to it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I guess we should jump right into it then. You ready to start with some questions? Let's start with, let's see. What was your favorite episode? Give me a MLA format, 2 paragraphs, double-spaced.
Okay, I guess I'll be the first one to go here. My favorite episode, I would probably have to go with, it's a tough one, because there are, I am partial to Disney. I know it was our first episode, so that holds a special place in my heart. But for me, personally, it would probably have to be Remedies. And I know I bitched and complained about it, but there was so much work that I put into it that I was very satisfied with the product of it and the way it went. And what we did, both of us. So,
that was the Dark Souls of our podcast episodes.
We
had to put in a lot of work, but it was rewarding. Because honestly, all the research was almost directly contrary to what I believed. I did not think we would be covering so many things that would be a confirmation, or at least plausible, rather than, completely bullshit.
We also justified our format in a lot of ways, and the reason, we pre-record several of our episodes, not the entire season, but we want to give ourselves a head start so that Ryan isn't drowning in edits and we give you all a crappy product. And what was interesting about that episode is it kind of like showed why we did that, because we every time we pick a thing, we're like, oh yeah, well, it'll probably take this long to be prepped, and that just took a lot more work on y'all's parts. Like I do some of the research on the show, but usually Ryan and Josh actually do most of it, and I had to get more heavily involved in this one just because it was like I had to like really look at their sources and we had to really double check stuff because Remedies is tricky. It's a very tricky one.
Well, not only that, I think it's a very good summary of what this podcast is. I mean, a lot of it's rooted in fact, and we call bullshit on things, and I think that was a great episode for us to cover, and I think it really just encompassed everything that we were trying to do.
Yeah. Greg?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Well,
what's your
I enjoyed
favorite.
history, but I also have like a lot of regrets about the history one, just because I didn't mind that it went so long, but for the reasons it went so long. I mean, I just.
Are you talking about World War II right now, or episode?
Yeah, the history episode. And I think I could have been better prepared on that one. But I enjoyed doing that a lot, and it's fun to sit in front of the mic. But I think the one I loved the most, and my buddy Mike, who mentioned on here a few times and gave us some great feedback early on, the death episodes, I think, where we turned a corner.
I figured that was your favorite.
That's why I felt like we turned a corner. I felt like the show, we knew what we wanted. We had ideas. Some stuff we executed great. Some stuff not so great.
Executed?
Oh, shut the... And
you did.
And I know I did. But I was very like that at the end of that episode. I just was like, that was tight. Like that was a very tight episode. It was a very
tight.
And we hit
Languile.
I was gonna say that was a great moment, and that showed Ryan was like read through it a few times, got himself ready for it, and like I was literally silently fist pumping after he finished. I was like looking at Josh, just fist pumping in the air, just like fucking nailed it.
You and I made eye contact.
Like, we were just like nailed it.
Yep.
And it was just a very like, this is a good episode, and it also, we don't get a lot of opportunity. I'm someone who loves to talk politics and philosophy, and it was a good opportunity to kind of explore the philosophical and like the nature of death, and we found out about the Death podcast and all these great things. So it was just kind of overall, I just felt we kind of really had started becoming the podcast we are now, and I think like as we move forward, that's the one I always think of and try to draw from.
Yeah, it was a good chance for us also to really dig a little darker and deeper, because that whole episode was a pretty, it's a heavy subject matter.
It was heavy.
But I think we handled it well. I don't think we were disrespectful in any way at any point. I mean, we're for the most part irreverent, but disrespectful is another thing. Sorry, we live by a ship and a train yard, so if you hear any crashing,
I was gonna say, as far as disrespectful, that first episode of the Make-A-Wish Foundation joke kind of set the bar pretty low.
They were never going to be a sponsor of this podcast. That was gone.
Notice I stopped even making comments about getting a sponsorship. I'm just like, yeah, well, whoever wants to deal with those pieces of shit.
A few years down the line, Make-A-Wish Foundation gets us emails like, hey, somebody really wants to meet the Rumor Flies guys. She'll be like, so should we leave our schedule half open?
No.
How immediate?
I mean, we don't have a very open schedule for the next week.
It's like, should I wait last minute or should I book a flight now? Oh, God. Okay, Ryan, what was your favorite episode?
My house isn't wheelchair accessible.
Oh, God. Ryan. Favorite episode.
Okay, favorite episode. So I was going to say, I'll just stick with it. I think food, because food was one of those where it was one of the topics that I had thought from, like, the conception of this show, where there were so many things involving it, because not only from my background, but also because I love cooking, and just it really helped. I thought that was a very educational episode. Greg made a bump.
Yes.
So I think it was a very educational episode for us, where we were able to inform. We had a lot of details with everything. We had the science behind it. I really got to clear up the whole MSG and steak thing, so instead of me telling all my friends over and over and over again, I just got to put it on a podcast and tell them to listen to that, and I still can't convince my mom
that... It has been forever settled.
Yeah.
It'll never be debated again.
Well, I think the real reason...
Flies has solved it.
Well, Ryan, I think the real reason we both know that was your favorite podcast.
Why?
It's because Greg wasn't there.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to stretch our legs a little bit,
There you go.
Take off our pants.
There you go.
Well, for me, I think if I had to pick the one episode that, we obviously had them, I don't want to say most trouble with, but I think the alcohol episode was also a pretty monumental episode for us as well.
Strong closer.
From a ethical standpoint of this podcast.
Going straight in from that, favorite topic, not episode, just
Yeah.
topic that we've covered.
Whew.
And I guess I'll start off with that one.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Tangential. I was going to say MSG was my favorite topic until I thought about the breathalyzer one. Because, yes, we had some long discussions about whether we should even include that in there. But at the same time, I think that is the topic that has been the most us, where it's not been just us spouting out sources or just, kind of parroting in our own way. But we did a lot of footwork, and we found something that, we're not going to publish a paper about it, but it seems to match a little bit with what the science would say. And that was important to me, at least, because we got to break a little ground with something that somebody else has not really put to the test in that type of conditions from what I've seen. If somebody finds out about that, send it to me. I'd love to see other things concerning it, because so far I'm sticking with what I did with the research. But it's ethical. It was a challenge, but I think we handled it well, and we got good graces from it. So
you got my compliant graces.
Approval.
I hate that we have the angel on our shoulders, Josh. I feel like we need somebody else that's going to be like, yeah, tell him to do it. Tell him to do it.
Well, I think
you're your own devils.
That's very true.
The thing is, I sit there and I'm so I stand. It's the blessing and curse of I always stand by what I say and what I write and what I do. I never backtrack. I never question. I'm if it's out there, it's because I stand by it. But it makes me more cautious about if I'm going to say it, am I going to regret it? And that's why I'm very much I like to take risks. I like to say, y'all saw that Facebook post stuff the other day. I'm cool with a flame war. I'm cool with fighting with people and getting contentious. But I'm where do I draw? Where do I pick my battles?
Yeah.
And that's what makes us so difficult. But that's why I'm with y'all, right? I think we did get a good segment out of that. It's very interesting.
Honestly, we've been pretty good with it so far, though. We haven't caught really any flack from what we've done so far.
I know.
Somebody tried to call us out on what the definition of a chicken cordon bleu was, but that's the wrong beep.
Well, it's inevitable. We're going to be wrong at some point, and that's fine. I have no problem being wrong.
We have been wrong.
And I have no issue with somebody correcting me on it. But at least correct me to the right thing. So for me, just going into my favorite topic, it's probably really surprising to you two, and I don't think either one of you would really predict this to be my favorite topic, but it's the lactation. I thought that was a really interesting topic, and a little behind the scenes, we discussed that we had a hard time fitting that in only because, it was some semantics on my part about wording the way to cover it incorrectly.
It was more of a thing of I think the original question was why we were talking about why do men have nipples?
We're talking
and it became
about the book,
into lactation, or why do men lactate if they don't need the nipples and stuff like that, and then it became we had to phrase it right to do men lactate?
Right.
And the thing that's funny is actually, now that I think about it some more, it's funny because all three of our philosophies kicked in there, because Ryan had a kind of who gives a shit factor. You had this interest, you were finding the right way to phrase, and I was coming at it from a consistency standpoint, going the way we are approaching this question and the way we're asking it does not match anything we've done, because I'm all branding. So I was this is not how we do questions. This is not how we ask things. And so all three of us had this thing, and the first thing you fixed was you found another way to word it, and I'm got it. I was on board. And then once you did some research, Ryan's this is interesting. I'm on board. And it was kind of this really funny thing where one guy's saying yes, the other two have problems for completely different reasons. It was more it was this very weird thing where we had never at any point contested even remotely every single topic. People oh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. And we just run down the list, and that one was all of a sudden tons of back and forth about it.
I think it was more because of it was a
and
deal.
It turned out to be an awesome one.
Yeah, it turned out really well, actually.
I think that the issue is that usually we try to get to questions where the answer can either be yes or no without explanation and not have to give it. You can't really answer yes or no to a why question in most cases. And after we hammer through that...
true or false. We usually make everything true or false, right? Yeah. That's kind of how we operate.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Or a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But Josh, after he...
Well, the question B.
Yeah.
Right.
True or false.
Yeah, Josh... After we agreed on it, he was jomping for joy, ready to talk about it. I was I can't wait to talk about lactation. I can't wait to talk about lactation.
Just because it was such an interesting... motherfucker. God damn it, boat.
A train boat.
It was just so interesting, though. I just didn't... I guess it was because the answer was just one I didn't expect at all. And not to say I haven't been surprised by answers on this podcast, because I'm usually surprised on everything that I've researched because, I hang on Uncle Rusty a little bit too much, but it was so cool just to like get an answer for something that I just really never expected. So I think that was, just everything, including the behind the scenes stuff and the way it went. It was just, I really enjoyed it. I was really glad that we did it. So
It was a good one.
Greg, what was your favorite topic of the season? Does it rhyme with Schmolumbus?
No, that was fun though. What's interesting is that like it's hard for me to pick one, and I'll keep this brief just because I kind of like half stole half dominated your own answer there.
That's cool, man.
But the things that always interest me, and the one thing I kept saying over and over again. We were like, oh, how did the episode go? And I kept saying, we're really not hitting that origins part right.
Yeah.
And what always was so fun for me was the ones where like the surge shrinkage one, right? That's a great one. Where like it's not just that this myth existed, it's that we can find news articles
and that evolved
were like
over time.
Yes, yeah. And like these things take on, like where you watch the game of telephone play out in the media. That was so fun for me. The Bud Hash one had me in tears. And Marshall was listening to it on our flight back from Philadelphia, and like she was sitting there laughing. No, it was during the drive to this area of Pennsylvania, and like she was sitting there like laughing so hard when like she heard me in the background start cracking up. I was like, he said Bud Hash. I was like the fact that a municipality legislated away a thing that wasn't even real. Like they thought it was such a problem. And they trusted the word of some sheriff or some deputy who got ahead of himself, and like that informed legislation. A joke on the internet, basically. And so that stuff is so fun for seeing these origins and how the telephone probably gets. And when we can really find documentation, especially if it's a few decades old,
yeah,
I jump for joy because that is the most. That sounded like a fart. It's so funny to me. It's like I just go, that's so fun because you're like, oh my god, we dove down the rabbit hole and there's something there.
Yeah,
and not only that, it keeps going. Like Bud Hash is something we talked about. Surge, it adapts culturally because Surge didn't even originally be Surge was the thing that gave you shrinkage. It was a different drink.
Yellow. Yeah, it's like yellow 5.
Well,
that's the thing. I mentioned that to a girl I was working with. Not even kidding. She asked about the show, and I asked her. I was like, "Do you remember the thing where guys were talking about how it could shrink down there?" And she's like, "Yeah, it was like yellow number something." Like everyone has like this vague memory of hearing it. Like to some random girl from like Chicago I was talking to at on a job.
Nice.
I was on a job, and she was just like, "Oh yeah, I remember that actually."
And also, there's another thing that I talked to y'all about a little bit earlier, that there's another myth that's coming up very close to Bud Hash. It's resurfaced on Facebook. It was a video that came out. It's actually in 2014. I looked into it. I don't think we're going to cover another episode after this, but this is your little bonus. There is something going around talking about how kids are now getting high off of bed bugs by crushing them up and smoking it. And I forgot the ridiculous chemical name they gave it. But long story short, it's an edited video about synthetic weed, and they edited it very well to make it seem like kids were smoking bed bugs. And just going to nip that one in the butt real quick. Bullshit. It's not happening. I mean, now it might be happening because they put the video out.
It's like that episode of Clone High where they get the kids to smoke raisins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You totally made me flashback about that.
Oh, man.
So Ryan, I have a question for you now. Who is your least favorite guest host in the whole season?
Or at least you're a guest host?
Yeah, someone that we normally don't give a microphone to that we did.
There was one person by the last name Tiotan. But he was also my favorite for other reasons, too.
He was also the only one.
Be nice to your producer. I can bring the whole site to a crash.
Oh, that's true.
I actually have wondered, Ryan is the one who does all the editing. Like, he literally does all the editing. Josh and I listen, we make notes. Josh is a little more diligent than I am, to be honest. And, we all kind of, fill our part. But it's I'm like, oh, yeah, I kind of produce the show. I'm like, but I'm not responsible for the actual production. I watch the levels. I do. I watch levels. I do research. But it's funny because I'm always like, oh, yeah, I produce the show. But Ryan really does put it together.
Are you saying you want to be demoted to just fact checker?
No. It's funny to me because I'm always I'm kind of like, whenever people are like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I produce it. I'm like, oh, kinda. It's Ryan's equipment at Ryan's place, and he edits it. It's it almost feels disingenuous at times.
But I'm the IT guy for Rumor Flies.
You're advanced IT.
Well, I think it's a good dynamic though that you bring to the show, and I totally joke.
Aw,
And
that's
but it brings a good dynamic because I mean, as you can tell, Ryan and I get rolling on something, and we get to a new question that we haven't thought of once we start talking, and we need somebody there to make sure that we're not completely going off the rails or we're just.
I'm
completely
glad we
wrong on
recognized that
something.
need earlier on.
And
That
not-
made, I will say, not too much. That made a big difference. We got some good moments out, and the show notes has got some really cool content because of that.
Yeah.
And not only that, but also I like having a guy that occasionally calls me such a piece of shit over the course of an entire season.
That's another fun thing we do. So, like, what would you say is like the number one response out of us individually? Greg is easily piece of shit. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've heard Greg just refer to somebody or something as a piece of shit.
I think mine is probably either exactly or right. Just kind of like, it's not like I realized, like, re-listening to the episode, it sounds like I'm kind of just like sweeping under the table or just spelling something that somebody's saying. I'm just like, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I guess that's me saying that's so funny instead of laughing.
That's so funny.
The person that never laughs.
I hate that fucking person, by the way.
But you know, Josh just has such a good contagious laugh that I feel like I can't do it.
A nice guffaw.
I just turned to a schoolgirl. Yeah, he has a belly laugh. I just have like a little like detuned bagpipe type of laugh, I
I
guess.
sound like such a stoner when I laugh sometimes. Oh my god, I sound like such a stoner when I laugh.
Yours
sometimes.
when it's really funny, you're like ah.
I cackle. I get that from my mom. She cackles. I can have a pretty awkward cackle.
So Josh, what have you been at least? What do you think is your most said thing, or have you been called out at least?
I
I know it already. Let's see if he gets it.
no, wait, Greg. I mean, I don't know. I want you two to tell me.
I would say, well, for lack of a better term,
That was in the beginning. I worked on that.
and I guess some behind the scenes part, like Josh and I, after the first 3 or 4 episodes, we were just like, okay, we got to work on a few different things. I have to stop my ums and uhs, and I had to edit out a lot of them for a while. But the warm-ups helped with getting rid of those, and I guess I've just been more conscious of it to the point where I pause a little bit more before I speak. Because, I mean, I haven't had any public speaking experience whatsoever. But Josh's apparently was, for lack of a better term, and I honestly didn't notice it, even editing it, but I think a particular cousin of yours may have called you out on that one.
Yeah. My cousin Jeremy, who you will hear at some point on the podcast. We got him and one of our other friends to do a nice little Rumor Flies roundtable.
Yeah.
That'll be coming in the near future.
That was a really fun one.
Yeah, that was really cool, and it was something because, you know, Jeremy's an avid listener of the podcast, and I mean, and I know I'm kind of biased because he is a family member of mine, but he also always gives me feedback, and he tells me things that he likes and things that he doesn't like. So it was cool to kind of get like that person, you know, that listener to kind of finally come on the podcast with us, and just to kind of put him in the hot seat and be like, here you go, motherfucker, here's a microphone, like, now you see how easy it is.
Yeah. Our dream guest will be Uncle Rusty. But
well, I haven't seen Uncle Rusty in the better part of 5 to 7 years, so let me know when you see him.
Reunification episode.
I'm just going to bring a recorder to my family reunion.
half reunion, half intervention, something like that, you know?
Yeah, well, I won't get in my Uncle Rusty personal life, but yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Is there anything else anybody wants to cover while we're at it?
I guess my little, I've mentioned this to y'all many times, my little sappy thing that, you know, you two are best friends and go back way back. And I met y'all a long time ago, but obviously college and all those things, I hadn't seen y'all in quite some time. And it was just really fun to kind of dive right in, and y'all made me feel really at home with it all. And it felt very effortless. I for the moment I started, I was like a little self-conscious about it because I was like, oh, you know, I like people and I like meeting people, but there's a very unique dynamic where it's like I already knew y'all, but had been a long time, and you kind of like want to pal around and be close with people. I know, like, you know, a lot of us have gone through some personal stuff and different things, and you're like, when do you reach out about things, and when do you not, and how do you handle certain situations? And it's a very strange thing, and
it's more of like a refriending over time, like after a certain phase of life.
And it really was, and like it was that kind of like doubting and self-conscious went away very quickly. You've been very warm, and it's been a very fun podcast, and y'all take everything I say very seriously, even when you shouldn't. And but you know, y'all take, but like I would have ideas like, I think this would help promote the show, and you're just like, awesome, let's do it. You trusted me for better, for worse, to execute some things and to help me do those things. I think a lot of what made this show successful, which I think we have been very successful this first season. The closing of the season was very strong. We were, as of today still, we've been trending on Podcast Addict for 4 days now. And we're
longer than that.
Yeah, and when we first did it, we were number 13, and number 14 was a podcast done by The Guardian. Like, that's awesome, guys.
We're still ahead of The Guardian.
Yeah, like we're up there, guys, and it's
so
it's
we have more reputable news source now.
There you go. And it all kind of goes down to that we all trust each other. Kind of like all three of us can do a little bit of each other's jobs, but each one of us kind of specializes. If Ryan got sick, I could handle the edit. I'd be slower. It wouldn't be probably quite as good, but I could handle it. And I know, like, when I talk to him, I'm keeping the edit in mind as I'm recording. And you help me, Josh, with like SEO and the blog stuff. And I talked about doing that. You're like, yes, we have to do that. That is important. And like, and obviously I'm not a host. The two of you handle the hosting. If one of you was out and I had to sit in, I could. So it's one of those things where we all complement, we all supplement, and y'all really facilitated me integrating into this and joining in with this like really tight friendship you two have. And it's it's just cool.
Well,
thank you.
Glad to have you along. And I think
we in a clique.
Yeah, I think this podcast as a whole for season 1, I think it's done a lot of growing. I think that as far as from episode 1 to episode 10, I think you can definitely see a change in the way that we went, and a change in the dynamic and even the show structure at points. And we learned from it, we got better, and we became, better podcasters because of it. And season 2, man, I mean, we're working already on season 2, and we got things that we've been touching on here and there. And I mean, I can't wait till we sit down and actually start hammering it out. And and the feedback from season 1's just been really overwhelming as well. I mean, we've had so many people like leave us review on iTunes. We've had people just send messages on different social media outlets. Like, it's been a really eye-opening experience, because like this is the, even maybe slightly after the golden age of podcasts, and the fact that we kind of just carved our own little way and kind of breaking through. We're not obviously not like the Joe Rogan experience, but
Yeah, I mean, it's odd because it's kind of one of those things where I never imagined that some possibly 1,000 people know about me pissing my pants, and some of my closest friends don't, because I just forgot to tell them that story. So something like that.
What is fun about podcasts is kind of why I even did projecting in the first place is like it's kind of its own document, right? It's its own, not to get like too like philosophical stoner conversation here, right? But it's just it's its own kind of snapshot of a period, and that's kind of what makes it interesting to go back and listen to them. You go back and
I agree.
And you're talking about going back through the warm-ups, and y'all were like, I don't even remember saying that. And like it'd be easy to chalk up like, oh, wasn't I drinking? It's like the warm-ups were like sipping a beer, we're hanging out. It's like you say things, and you have all these conversations with people we don't remember, and sometimes we're like, oh, not everything needs to be on social media, not everything needs to be out there, but it is kind of fun to go back and hear these recordings and hear these moments again where you're like, oh my god, I totally forgot about that. There's kind of a like,
yeah, there is.
Yeah, it's a nice experience. It's like, not even nostalgia.
Yeah,
it's something else
different. But I can't tell you how many people like have reached out to me and they're like, man, you know what? It's just really good to hear your voice and just like hear you talk. And I think
that's never happened to me.
Well, I mean, I did when I worked at Disney. I mean, I have friends from all over the country and all over the world. So I mean, I've had people that literally text me and like, I just haven't heard your voice, or anything in so long. I mean, because texting's so big in this age. But I think the number one compliment that I've ever gotten about this podcast was somebody said, it feels like a conversation, and I find myself talking because I feel like I'm in a conversation with you guys. And I got to remind myself that, like, it's a podcast, and, you guys are just having such a very organic conversation, and it's very good dynamic. And I was just like, man, I can't think of higher praise than that.
Yeah, that is, I like it.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
That's something I care a lot about.
We'll do best to stay authentic.
Very happy to hear that.
Yeah. All right, well.
So, yeah, I think...
listeners, you have your checklist of things to call us out on for next season. So we just gave you that, and now that we're done the Rumor Fly Circle Jerk, we're going to go ahead and just enjoy a little bit of our warm-ups. Like I said, this is completely off the cuff for the most part. Usually we prepared a story to talk about just so we get the ums and uhs out of our system after that, so...
Yeah, it's a way for us to get, kind of just... It's weird to just kind of sit down in front of a microphone and just go right into it. You just got to get comfortable.
And honestly, this is...
That caused a lot of resets in the beginning.
This is like
maybe 10 minutes in, we'd start over and start over and start over.
This is the stuff that we were comfortable putting on the air. But it's
There's some deleted content out there.
Yeah,
It's not even on a hard drive. It's just gone.
No, it's gone.
But I think you'll enjoy it. You're going to learn nothing from it. Literally nothing.
You will learn more about us than you ever thought you wanted to know about us.
But you're not going to learn anything about a rumor or anything like that.
No, nothing flying and nothing rumored.
Yeah. If anything, it's just going to be a little insight into how stupid we can be.
Yeah, so I think you guys will enjoy it. I think it's fun. We listened to it and we really enjoyed it. So, we hope you guys do as well. And it's just something to hold you over until the next little supplemental bit. And season 2 is not far away. So hope you guys are excited as we are.
Yeah, and we got at least one more supplemental bit coming out before season 2. So look forward to that. Shouldn't take too long.
And we're talking to other podcasts about doing a crossover episode. So
yeah.
I don't want to say that out loud yet because we're like 90% set.
Except you just did.
Until I'm not saying who. I'm saying.
Oh, you're putting the fire on their asses.
We got some things that are some big things that we keep hinting at, but we're not quite there yet to get to. But
oh yeah, there's something monumental down the line that we're not even going to promise is going to be ready before season 2 or during season 2. But we got some.
We saw the JFK assassination.
Yeah. Oh God. They already know we're not touching that. So, with all that being said, thanks again for season 1, guys. We had a blast doing it. We hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Feel free to contact us. You know how to do it. Thanks for the iTunes reviews and the great stuff that you've sent us. So, I guess we'll just go from there. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Greg.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So this weekend, I didn't tell you about this when everybody was in town, but perfectly bad timing was that since we have like old pipes at this house, they have some rust build up, and we had to call like Roto-Rooter over here to get it fixed. But in the meantime, we ended up having to
shit outside.
No, we didn't have to shit outside. But we were limited to the top bathroom because it was the only one that had enough pressure to actually flush the water down or anything like that. So it was limited enough as it was, but that one day that it was happening, it was just like, it was a perfect storm of just bad things happening. Like, I don't know if you ever had those like emergencies. Long story short, I was the closest to shitting myself that I've been in a very long time. Because, so I forgot where we had gone to eat, but we had a lot of stuff because, you had guests in town and everything. But what ended up happening is that I was on my way home, and I was like, oh, dude, I need to shit so badly. Like, it was terrible. Like, everybody was wondering why I was being so quiet in the car. Like, everybody thought that, like, I had just gotten bad news or, like, something from my mom. I don't know. But then when I got home, like, that whole deal, like, when you're about to get close to the place where you're about to shit, like, things get amplified. Your butthole just kind of opens up. It gets amplified, like, well, we're close enough. So... It's like, oh, we're close enough, so I'm gonna just go ahead and get this process started. I'm just like, no fucking no. And then as soon as we park, like, I'm just kind of like waddling over to like the door and everything. I put the key in, drop the keys in out of the lock and everything, and like fumble it.
I'm about to shit myself walk where you kind of like waddle back and forth, like, oh god,
I think I played it off well enough, but like, then like, so I get in, and as I'm about to like go towards the bathroom, as soon as I get in there, I realize, oh shit, these toilets aren't working. The only one's working is upstairs. So then I just get around to the stairs, and I'm just looking up, and it's like my fucking Everest, and I'm like, every step is going to be just playing Russian roulette the entire time.
Oh my god.
And, dude, I could have sworn.
Did you make it?
Yeah.
Honestly, did you make it?
I was like farting on the way up, but I mean like...
Greg, oh, no!
What did you do?
I just spilled my beer.
Goo!
Because I was moving my hand and it tipped it over.
Well, Josh, I hope your pants enjoy Greg's homemade beer.
Oh, dick in my butt.
Dude,
There's a lot of beer left.
Yeah,
you aged that for like 2 solid years just for it to spill on Josh's pants.
You know what's funny? The last time I wore these, Sean spilled wine all over him, so that's when I wear them again. Fucking
dude, those are Omen pants.
That's the worst part. I got that on camera at 2 angles.
Hey, you know what's funny? I got a pair of shorts in the car. I'm gonna change.
All right, well, Greg, we're gonna talk. We got a little talk session real quick while we're waiting for Josh.
About that life.
So there was a game that one of our friends used to play, and I can't really call it a game because if nobody else knows you're playing it, you can't really call it a game. But the game was whenever 2 people would walk up to a urinal stall at the same time, you had to turn to pee on the other person's foot first. And if they lost, you just kept peeing on their foot.
What the fuck?
Except most of the time it was like 1st and 2nd graders, and we were like in 7th grade.
That's not screwed up or anything.
Still consistently did it.
Wait, are we all talking about Paul Piston and the kindergartners?
That's not weird.
I never said it wasn't.
Oh, I know. Oh no, you're good. I was just like,
Oh no,
wait,
no.
what?
It's fucked up, but it's hilarious to think about.
It was pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't piss on a kindergartner at this age, but you know.
Oh wait! I said last time on the warm up what I was going to talk about. Did you forget already?
No.
The time when I shit myself.
Yeah, keep going. We're gonna go with this. We're gonna just cut this in.
Let's do
I
it.
don't care how long this goes for.
Oh no, it's not that long. So I was working in Disney at the time, and I'll never forget this. I was feeling like absolute dog shit the night before, like to the point to where like I couldn't sleep for longer than 45 minutes because I kept waking up and having to go to the bathroom. And I was like, dude, I got like a 14-hour shift the next day. I need to just like suck it up and I need to just go.
Who was the dude? Your ass?
No, I was talking to myself.
Oh, okay.
It's like, self-motivating talk kind of thing. I'm like, just suck it up. You need to go. You got a long shift. Like, it's a lot of money that you're missing out on. That's 6 hours of overtime, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I get up and like I end up falling asleep at like 7:30. My shift starts for 8:30. I wake up and it's like 8:32. So I'm late. And I'm like, all right, I already know I'm going to be late, whatever. Because they go by a point system. So I'm like, I'm already going to get docked half a point, whatever, not a big deal. So the way it works, though, is that if you're not feeling well, they give you a number to call, like to call in. But you don't talk to your managers. It's like a phone bank. And you just call them and you're like, hey, here's my worker number. And they're like, oh, you work in this area? Yeah.
You
all right,
worker for 7
yeah.
9
Yeah.
3
And I'm like, oh, hi, my name's Josh. My number is, 1 2 3 4 5 6. And they're like, okay, you work in, in World Showcase. Yeah, I know. That's my real number too.
That's my PIN number.
That's my PIN number. You have a 6-digit PIN?
I voluntarily changed my social.
And one that
Oh wait,
extra
you
security.
said PIN number. I see what you did there, dick. At the ATM machine. So it's like 8:32 and I'm like, fuck. So I get up, I throw my clothes on, whatever. Now you gotta remember, I'm in white shorts and a white shirt. Oh no. So I'm like, okay. So I decide. So like my car was parked right next to the dumpster, which is where it is. So like I get in the car and I'm like, oh my god, this does not feel good already. Like, and I don't like to shit in public places. I make that vehemently clear. I do not shit in public places.
Oh, we need to save your story. No, there's some origin behind that.
No,
We're gonna get into that
I don't
later.
shit in public places, which that will never make it on the podcast. By
Okay,
the way.
whatever.
That will never make it on the podcast. Ever. Not even if there's a fire.
For our
So,
Patreon users,
I'm-
if we reach $100 a month, we'll get Josh's shit story.
Unless you're a $5 a month Patreon member, and I will personalize my story.
He will call you and tell you about why he does not shit in
On an
public
encrypted
places.
phone that makes it so you can't record it.
So like I get in my car and I'm like, man, like this isn't going well. And I shit you not, I put it in reverse and I make a 3-point turn and I got a fart. And I did, and it didn't go well. So wait, it gets better. So I'm like, oh no. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be late already. So fuck, I pull my car back in and I look and my underwear was just brown. So what do I do? So what do I do? I get back in my car, I drop the pants, take off the underwear, and I just throw them right in the dumpster. And I went, nope, not going in today. So I just called in and I went right back to bed.
Jesus, dude. Like,
I was 20. I was a grown man. I was 20. It wasn't like I was 6. I was 20. And I just shit myself. I tell you, I didn't make it 5 feet out of that parking spot before it happened.
that was like whole series of going half measure. And just ending up with like a full pants of shit. All right, God.
Who was that back in the day? Popeye. That's who it was. Yeah, okay. Earl, come here.
Dude, I just solved their problems. Greg, I think we need a pee bucket in this room.
Helicopter, dude.
All right.
Helicopter.
So, Greg, and we're going to try to make this one kind of quick, but...
Yeah, Ryan's feeling good.
Is this the stomping?
Yes,
Hashtag
okay.
stomp.
So,
Waffle stomping yard.
Wait,
to
tweet
preface this-
at rumor flies. Hashtag stomp.
waste disposal efficiency. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Waffle
So,
stomp the yard.
you remember other Greg, right? Greg,
Movie quotes. Waffle stomp the yard.
Oh,
Waffle stomp the yard.
and the next one, stomp up.
Oh god.
Stomp it up again.
Stomp up number 2.
man, that's great.
Oh,
So, leading up to that, all right, so a little bit more ridiculous. Greg, you haven't heard of this one, but the other Greg Manson, who you recently did an episode of Projecting with, he was telling me about how he knew somebody who apparently...
Now I can't use this. Oh, well.
Why?
Because that's the last name.
Oh, Greg won't care.
Craig, if you don't like this, let us know after it's uploaded.
It's over. This wasn't even him. So, Greg...
didn't complain.
Not that Greg. So that, I forgot who he was, but he had a friend that apparently was talking about sometimes when he was in the shower and he really needed to shit and he didn't even think about it. Like, why would you, like, I don't know. I usually have a preemptive shit before showering.
Well, yeah, you don't shit after you shower,
Exactly.
though. Like,
Oh, that's the worst.
yeah, because you got a wet ass, and then you just kind of like sliding along as it's sliding out of you.
God.
It's like if there's an earthquake, you're gone, and you don't know where it's going.
Everything's a wet wipe at that point.
Exactly.
But afterwards... So this guy thought that since he was in the shower and he already fucked up by not, like, shitting before he went in the shower, decided that he would...
You gotta go.
Shit in his hand and then reach out of the shower and throw it in the toilet afterwards.
It's all going to the same place, right?
Right. Unless you implement the waffle stomp. So the waffle stomp, as Greg already knows, and he managed to explain to a whole wedding party,
As you know, as you will now know, dear listeners,
is that once you defecate into the shower after the point of no return, if you have had a high fiber diet, it will hopefully be solid. Well, in this case, you don't want it to hopefully be solid. Otherwise, it could just wash down and get down the drain. But sometimes you just have that drain the shower where you just have a turd sitting on the grate. The waffle stomp is the use of taking your foot of choice, usually it's the dominant one, and then repeatedly placing it with fast velocity onto the defecation over the shower grate and pushing it down through the little holes of the shower grate. This is known strategically as the waffle stomp. Usually you do it in rapid succession. Actually, I don't know. I've never done it. But I'm trying to decide which will work better if you do it slowly, just like kind of like make sure to mash it in there, or it's just quick successive stomps into the shower grate. Like, that's the shameful side of it, I think. Like, you just want it gone as soon as possible.
well, and as Greg's friends cleverly pointed out, that a hashtag actually looks like a waffle. So you can just hashtag stomp to @rumorflies on Twitter if you would like to share your experiences with this.
Please hashtag stomp.
Hashtag stomp.
Hashtag STAHMP. Hashtag stop.
Stamp.
Hashtag stamp.
Use hash stamp.
We in Louisiana. We call it the hashtag.
myself from laughing, so I'm going ahead and just getting rid of that right
Oh my god.
Tell your story, your warm-up story in the meantime.
Of the wedding?
Party, yeah, exactly.
So I was at a wedding in Lafayette.
Okay there, buddy.
God bless your Bikner. So yeah, we combined their names too, and I none of the guys. I think the groom had heard of it, but I think he said he might. He said he heard of it, but he's the only one who'd heard of this of the
waffle stomp.
the waffle stuff. And so I told the rest of the guys about it, thinking, oh, some of them will know. No one knew. It just blew their minds.
Well, to be fair, it's not something that like you would normally think about.
But it's like think of like the really messed up ones, like rusty trombone, all these like depraved sex acts we learned in school and shit. All the stuff we learned is like all guys like
Hot Carl, cold
yeah,
Carl.
there you go. The
Alaskan
salty walrus.
Alaskan pipeline, yeah.
Yeah, salty dragon. But so all these really messed. Sorry, the angry dragon. But all these really messed up, depraved things we learned because we're just guys. But no one heard of the waffle stuff. So I explained to them.
Did you make them look it up, or did you tell them?
No, I told them.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't think. I was trying to laugh. We're all having drinks, and like one's like, "Out with it!" And I'm like, "It's fine. And they all start going. I was like, "And you just." I couldn't even explain it, and they all just start losing their mind.
You were like miming the waffle stomp to
I
him?
couldn't say it. I was laughing so hard. I couldn't say it. So I'm trying to explain to fucking 8 adult males what this is. And so basically, the whole time we'll be out, and we're just like having drinks. Someone was like, "Guys, we're just near a shower. I gotta go take a shower." We go to the hotel, And someone's like, dibs on shower. I gotta drop a deuce. I was like, oh man, I can't use this bathroom. There's not a good grate in here. Like, it was just non-stop.
It's just a straight hole.
The group text, in person, you name it. It was non-stop.
That's awesome.
Oh my god. It could be also renamed the Belgian toilet.
That's good.
The Belgian special.
That's good.
Oh god, where's your shower? I gotta do a Belgian.
Oh god. All right.
Man, I got a shit so bad. Well, dude, someone's on the toilet. Yeah, but you got a bathtub, right?
Yeah, shower,
Yeah, why?
right?
Dude, I'll just give it a Belgian
You
special.
don't
No
do the
big deal.
bathtub.
Yeah, just give it a Belgian special. No big deal.
Okay, yeah, we're good. I think we're.
Yep.
Yep, rip. Yeah, so
Oh
the other warm up we're gonna talk about was when we were in Chicago for the Blurry Photos live show.
Josh rented a car,
how,
as we said.
Yeah, and how the show almost didn't happen because of
Us?
bad decisions.
Wait.
Yeah, no,
so-
I'm not kidding you. The show almost literally didn't happen.
You told me all about Chicago earlier this evening before we started, and they skipped this part.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
we
because
intentionally
we
skipped
intentionally skipped it.
So,
But anyway, so you're saying, so y'all had the car.
So we had the car, and I was using my GPS to get around, and Josh, therefore, was waiting for all of my answers. We had some mishap, but for the most part, Josh was being pretty cautious by driving like an old woman. Not his fault. We were in a place we didn't know where we were going. However, something about Chicago is, especially on a nice, beautiful Saturday and Sunday, there is a whole lot of foot and bike traffic.
Everyone decides to go outside when the weather is beautiful, which I can't blame them. But when the weather was
Chicago
nice,
has beautiful weather.
when we were there, dude, the weather was beautiful.
Dude, it almost made me want to move there.
Like,
Had I
it
known
was
better.
perfect. But the thing was that everybody in
For
the
those of
fucking.
you who don't know, I had to cancel last second, and I'm really upset about that.
So the thing about it was that when people were like, "Oh yeah, everybody's gonna be out today," they weren't fucking kidding. Everyone and their pet monkey was out that day.
Yeah, pretty much. Kids, dogs, people.
Rabbits.
Yeah. Oh, dude, we did run into a rabbit.
I saw a rabbit.
We saw a rabbit in somebody's yard. We were really confused about it. But so while we were driving, we were going under this underpass. It was like a train track, and they have like a little dip so you can go into the train tracks and drive. And it looks like a rickety alley, but apparently it's a main road for a lot of like transit.
Am I a little high, Greg?
You're good. Okay. I'm watching.
It is 4:20 today.
Yeah. 420 YOLO blaze it. So anyway, continue.
So as we're going on the train tracks, under
Underneath.
them, yeah, we see this biker that doesn't have a path, so it's not his fault and everything. But he's like swerving like crazy. Maybe I'm just saying this to make us sound better, but the long story short is we nearly hit that or clipped that biker as he was going by.
And as I drove by, I looked at Ryan. I'm like, what an asshole! Like, what is wrong with this dude? What the fuck is he doing swerving in the middle of the road? What's going on?
Right. And the entire time, I was thinking to myself, because we had talked about this before, we listened to Blurry Photos, and we know Dave Stecco, one of the hosts, he actually rides a bike.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, how funny would it be if it was Stecco? It was like, oh, it looked like about his height and build, if anything.
Well, the funny thing was, he's like, what if that was Dave Stecco? And I'm like, maybe, is that Dave Stecco? And he's like, yeah, I think it is. And I was like, no. And then we're like, no, it's probably not him. Like, what are the odds of that?
So fast forward after the live show, we meet up at the bar called the Brownstone, I think. It was very good place.
Yeah.
This
pretty
podcast brought to you by the Brownstone. Not actually.
Can you waffle stop a Brownstone?
Oh god damn it!
Came back up.
Oh god.
So afterwards,
That's all our group text has been for weeks. They wanna have track jackets with a waffle with boots on the back.
oh god,
I love you, Sanji.
So
Oh god.
as we're at the bar, Flora and Stecco are there. David and Flora, they're both Davids, Dave and Dave. And I was talking with Stecco for a second, and we were just shooting the shit a little bit. And then eventually I was like, you know what, I'm going to ask you anyway. I was like, hey, were you riding your bike earlier? He's like, yeah, I do every day. I was like, cool. Were you wearing mostly black gear? I was like, yeah. And I was like, were you by so-and-so? Just like, yeah. I was like, Josh, we got to talk. I think we almost hit David Stecco on the way to the show.
So I walk up there, and Ryan's like, I think that was literally him you almost murdered. I'm like, no. And he's like, no, it probably wasn't you guys. Do you have a red car? And I was like, oh, fuck. It 100% was us. We literally almost hit the co-host of the podcast we were going to see.
This is why we can't have nice things.
That's exactly why we can't have nice things. It was so fucking weird. I mean, we laughed and
That's like
joked
almost
about it.
Arrested Development level type of
Oh
synchronicity.
God, yes.
It was
oh
so
God,
fucking
yes.
funny. It was so funny.
I mean, it was all good. Like, he was like, yeah, I knew there was a pothole, I had to swerve. I knew the car was coming too, so I was just like, no, I swerved, so...
Yeah, and he's like, I know it was kind of my fault, and I'm like, nah, it's fine. It was my fault, but yeah.
But it was really like see no evil, hear no evil type of thing. Josh was the blind guy, and I was telling him where to go. And I wasn't looking up, so...
It's whatever. Everybody made it out unscathed. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's right. If you're negligent, it doesn't actually count as a bad thing, right?
My father, who was a police officer, his words always were, "Nothing is illegal until you get caught."
Fair enough.
All right. Anyway, pass me the crack so we can start this episode.
But
Dude,
JFK is like, by the end of the decade, we're gonna put a man on the moon.
You know, it'd be terrible for an April Fool's episode, Rolf. Come here. It would be very painful for us.
Well, at least we don't have to worry about it for another year.
Yeah.
If we did an entire episode talking like this.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up. I have a theory. Stitch.
You have my
Hold on,
attention.
Stitch, Meatwad, and Smeagol, same person.
I
Here
can.
you go. Stitch. Ohana. Ohana means family. Meatwad. Come on, guys. Why y'all been doing that? Stitch. And last one's Smeagol. Adoras. My run.
The fat one.
See, I can give you Stitch, and I can give you Meatwad.
It's the same voice. It's the same thing. Tighten up.
Habits.
The swimming pool is nice and cool and so sweet.
It's pretty good.
Right? Dude, the same fucking voice. I don't know if they're the same person, but it's the same thing.
They're
Just
not.
engaging that tightening.
Our Hanalman's family no one gets left behind.
Bitch.
Can you?
Yeah, give us an impression. You give us one. I'm gonna. Come on, what you got? This is gonna be a good time for levels.
On the bottle one Puno.
So before we get into some food ideas, Greg, we're going to have like a back and forth. You see what you'd rather. I don't know if we talked to him about these.
Is this where we're gonna play Would You Rather?
Yeah, actually, it's going to be
pretty
it's
much what it is,
We got
yeah.
a few good ones. So first off, I just want to talk about one of my misconceptions way back when I was a kid.
Mythconceptions.
Is the name
Trademark rumor flies.
the name Paco.
Shit, we gotta start doing that hashtag.
So I was at Coretta's and I was eating a taquiero style taco, and I realized that I remember there was the name Paco, which isn't very used over here, but it's obviously a name, and I thought that it was short for pocket taco. One of my things as a kid. And that's only because I
just want to kill every mic and just collect this laugh. Oh my god.
It's like in fucking The League where he has pocket dogs, pocket hot dogs.
oh god.
One of my
Well, the only reason I did it was because I was at Coretta's. And
It's so stupid.
if we ever want to
I just envision like a work shirt, and like a tie, and just a taco. And like the lettuce like hanging out.
I almost did it today. That's the thing, Mike. I was over at Coretta's, and as I was leaving, Chloe was like, "Oh, they put lettuce in this taco. Do you want?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll eat it later, whatever." Oh shit, I think it's still in my car. It is. But as I was walking out, I was like, "Oh shit, I got stuff in my hand." I went and I almost put it right in my pocket, and I was like, "That's very stupid." Then I remember, I was like, "Oh, the Paco."
That's fucking great.
My buddy Reed, dude, I hope you listen to this podcast. One of the funniest things, I lived with his brother for some reason in Virginia, and I got to know him really well.
He's not gonna record
I
tonight.
can't get over
Pocket
it.
taco.
I can't fucking get over it. Pocket taco.
Reed.
2 weeks later.
Okay, that's what I'm clicking on.
This is the way it works. Josh, I'm gonna fuck you up mid-episode, just letting you know.
Why?
You're not gonna know where it's coming.
Oh god. I don't know.
All right, just go.
Well, are you recording?
Yeah.
Hit record.
Fucking pocket tacos. Fucking pocket tacos.
I'm gonna mention it one time during the podcast. You're gonna not guess it.
I can't get over it.
All right, guys, brought to you by Tacos.
Paco's Pocket Tacos.
See, we tell them when we drink, now they're just gonna think we're fucking blazing with this joke. They're gonna be like, dude, these guys are fucking mile high.
Dude, I'm surprised Taco Bell has not come up with that. Dude, we should just invent Paco Bell.
Rolf, stop licking my fucking drink.
Rolf, here.
Greg, you want to tell Ryan? Your piece of
I didn't
shit
realize how
story.
funny it was until I started telling him it.
I love
And I
those.
realized-
I'm ready for it. Okay.
So let me set this up. So we're downstairs and you're doing God knows what, and we're talking. I'm like, so Greg, did you go eat Mexican food today for Cinco de Mayo? And he just starts laughing, and
My response.
and so like, and you know, like I had pizza last night, and so he's like, yeah, or so I'll let you pick it up.
So
from here.
that's Amore came up again, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Amore." And I was like, "Yeah, dude." I was like, "Yeah." Funny thing was, last night I was with my friends. We were all drinking, and piece of shit that I am. I obviously ordered Domino's, and so I was like, "So I had barbecue chicken pizza as per usual." And so I ate that last night.
And he's like, I ate all of it.
Yeah, oh, it was a medium.
Yeah,
I ate the whole thing. It was $5.99, so I ate the whole thing. And then I wake up this morning, I had Domino's. So I wake up, and 2 days ago, I went to Sarita's and had quesadillas. So this morning, I ate 2-day-old quesadilla from my fridge.
For breakfast.
Then I opened my calendar to see what I had to do today and noticed it was Cinco de Mayo.
So you
And realized, I was like, if I had looked 10 minutes earlier, I could have justified my shitty garbage disposal actions. But no, I did it naturally.
So I was like-
I did it on my own.
You got an afterwards hall pass.
So he woke up and he's just like, yep, it's that kind of day, and eats it, just being a piece of shit. And then he looks at the calendar and he's like, that totally makes sense now.
That's totally why I ate it, right?
For the record, there is no such thing as a breakfast quesadilla whatsoever. You will not even see that at Taco Bell. They will stuff a fucking hash brown from McDonald's into a wrap before they make a breakfast quesadilla.
Do not talk shit about Taco Bell breakfast.